Hey folks, Richard here again. Just to plug my blog, Facts for Working People, we know what's up.blogspot.com is the URL. And I'm sort of tempted to comment here because I happened to read, I was reading one of the Vatican's newspaper, and the Pope's come out. I was involved in the Catholic Church. I went to Catholic schools, lived in a small village, went into town. I went to Catholic schools, and I was drawn to it for a little while, but not very long. So I get this. When I was young, when I was active in it back then, I was taught that the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church, was infallible. We used to joke and say he was inflatable, and that infallibility meant he couldn't sin. The Pope can't sin. I know it was put to me that way because I remember it. And I found out now that apparently it's not. I looked it up, and it says infallibility is a specific, limited grace whereby the Pope is preserved from error only when speaking ex cathedra, which means officially from the chair of Peter, which is apparently in Rome, on doctrines of faith or morals. It does not mean he cannot sin in his personal life or make mistakes in his daily actions. That's not how I remember it. But the main thing is, I guess when he's speaking as the Pope and the officially, then he can't sin, that guy. He has grace and he has the Holy Spirit, but make sure that he's got to be telling the truth. So that sort of ticked me off. What ticked me off in the beginning was I read in the Vatican paper that Pope Leo expressed his concern for the rising tensions between the United States and Cuba. The rising tensions between United States and Cuba. What he's doing what they all do. He's covering for the United States, you see. He's covering. Is there rising tensions in Israel between the Palestinians in Gaza and Israel and the Zionists? With the Nazis and the Jews? Was that in tensions? Are there just tensions rising between those people? Of course not. One's the killer, one is the oppressor, and the other is not. Cuba is not have any tensions with the United States. The United States has strangled this island for 60 years, and now it's causing death and destruction there through its economic power and blockage of oil. The Pope's. If he's speaking as the Pope, God's lying. If he's not speaking as the Pope, he's lying. So one way or another, there's a lie here. So then he goes on. The Pope goes on to say, he says. He brings in the heavy artillery. He prayed that the Blessed Virgin, quote, that the Blessed Virgin Mary may watch over all Cubans. This is from the Vatican press. And then he doubled down praying that, quote, I guess it's a Cuban saint, Our Lady of Charity El Cobre, assist and protect all the children of that beloved nation. Well, what a load of bollocks this is, really. Now, I say this not to attack Catholics, right? I've got lots of friends that are Catholic. One of my best friends are Catholic. People, there's a religion and then it's adherence. But to me, if I was active in the bloody church, I know one of the reasons people are active, it's community, it's people that you're familiar with, it's a place that gets you out of this miserable world, you know, all of the stuff that reason, and there's cult-like sometimes too. But the thing is, if I was active, if you're going to be active, for God's sake, you know, fight to change it then. And that reminded me of the Liberation Theologists. Remember the Liberation Theologists? I think they were predominantly Jesuits. I received catechism from a Jesuit. I lived in a village. He used to come out every Sunday and give me catechism. I remember him very fondly. He was a decent person. And if I was going to be active, I'd be fighting in it to change it. If I felt I wanted to be in the Catholic Church, they have different sects like the Opus Dei, but there was the Liberation Theologists. They were condemned. They were assassinated and murdered by the right-wing death squads, backed by the US, and the Vatican did very, very little about that. And why is that? They called them Marxists and communists. And what were they? This is the definition of them. It's a Roman Catholic movement originating in 1960 in Latin America that interprets the gospel through the experiences of the poor, advocating for social, economic and political liberation. It emphasizes on orthopraxis, right action, over orthodoxy, right belief, focusing on structural change to combat poverty and oppression. Now, there's an aspect of Catholicism that's very, very closer to a lot of people's thinking, and that was it's not been smashed, but that was, its adherents were murdered. The US supported the murderers. The Vatican did very little to do any in response to it. And lastly, I'll say this: if the Pope wanted to, well, firstly, the Catholic Church was the dominant religion of the feudal aristocracy. Today, it's one of the leading religions of capitalism. All of the religions, our Western religions, support capitalism. The evangelicals, Protestants, Catholic, you name it, they all preach Catholicism in their beliefs. And this wasn't Marxist. There was simply that those people among the poor, and being among the poor, affected how they perceived and how they saw Jesus and the Christian faith. The same happened in the French Revolution, where the aristocracy, the hierarchy of the Catholic Church were with the aristocracy and the rising bourgeois, and the rural priests in the villages and so forth among the poor had a different view. It affects them just like anything else. And so that to me is a different question. And it's important to remember that these institutions are institutions of capitalism. They have no right, or where they should not be active in any way in public life, in public buildings, because it's extremely divisive. The belief in a creator and a God, I defend anybody's right to express it and be open about it. But it is a personal matter between you and your God, and that's where I believe that is. But what a joke! The Catholic Church, it's plundered the world, that institution. That's why. Where do you think all that gold came from in the Vatican? Anyway, lovely day today. I don't mean any harm against Catholic people now. That's a different question. But I can be critical of the institution.